Hi, how are you, man?
All right.
Fine, thanks.
It's a big game, I think, for both clubs. We're looking to have record finishes to the season. Is that a motivation, do you think, in both dressing rooms, certainly yours?
Well, yeah, I mean, the focus at this time of the year, obviously, understandably so, is top end and bottom end, but we've got our own thing going on in the middle of the pack, and Swansea, I think, it's a record points total. We've got the potential to do that in the Premier League again this year. We did it last year. We've got an opportunity again. Ideally, we can take 3 points off Swansea. Obviously, that takes us closer to them. So we may have the opportunity to be higher than our 9th position last year. So there's still a lot to play for. It's something that we've used as a motivation right through the season, and it's something that we intend to look at and use from now to the end of the season. We haven't got long to go now, so it's getting to the point where we can look at what we've done this year and see if we've achieved.
Well, history matters, but I guess so does making progress, especially with the injuries that you've had.
Well, yeah, I've said for a number of weeks now, I think if we're able to beat the points total that we had last year, which obviously was a record in the Premier League, then I think we'd all gain more satisfaction from that amount this year, just because of the injuries that we've had to key players, influential players, creative players that we've got at the club. But for long periods they've been unavailable. So to still be in with an opportunity of beating our highest total of last year, we're still in the mix for that. Then I think that's a real positive for us this year.
Are you sitting there thinking this is a squad that has grown this season, partly because of?
Yeah, I think the key has been the quality of the group, the strength in depth, and the attitude of the group, in fairness, because even when players have been out of the team and haven't been able to get back in when they've lost places, just through the good form of the players, and I think that's helped us. But it's a reflection of the attitude of the group that even if players aren't playing week in, week out, and they're just biding their time, waiting for an opportunity, they're still training correctly. Nobody throws their toys out the pram, nobody gets upset. They understand that at some stage in this season they will be needed, and that's been the case this year. And almost everybody who's been out of the team for a long period or even short periods have always come back and made an impact for us. So that's been the strength of us this year.
Does that core spirit give you the kind of optimism that next season?
Yeah, we're hoping next year. We're not looking too far ahead. We want to get this season done and dusted, but certainly next year, if we have a better run in terms of injuries to key players, then we'd like to think that the strength and the quality of the group will help us again next year.
I read an article this morning that it was £1 million match because of the way it finishes in terms of the Premier League night.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody knows that an extra place in. Yeah, I think so. It does that from our point of view in terms of the resources available to the club to be able to go into the market, and you can use obviously what you generate. You're able to use. So if we can get an extra place on merit, then that merit money that you earn and win will obviously help.
Does that kind of finish in what people are saying about the way you're playing in football make it easier perhaps in the transfer market over some attracting players?
Well, I think we're viewed in a different light now anyway. I think we're certainly working in different markets. I think players, and I've said before, certainly their agents feel that we're a viable option for their clients these days, and I think that's a consequence of obviously, hopefully, having back-to-back top 10 finishes in the Premier League and the type of football that we're trying to play. So we've got more options and better and differing choices than possibly we've had in the past.
But when the bigger clubs are perhaps looking to loan people out, and Manchester United mentioned this morning with James Wilson, are there the sort of clubs and players that somehow you are in the market?
Well, I think you saw last year we had Victor Moses, well this year rather, but obviously his season's over. But yeah, we've had players from Chelsea, we had Osama Saidi from Liverpool. So the top clubs know that if their players are allowed out, they can come here, and obviously ideally they want game time. But the way we're trying to play it then, and the way we train and the environment that we create, it's very, very similar to what they're exposed to at the top clubs. So they know there's not that much issue in terms of adaptation when you come here.
Just a word on Gary Monk, how impressive you've been with his
He's had a great season. Yeah, obviously got the job, and people possibly thinking that was come a little bit too soon. A huge responsibility, obviously, to give him the role, but obviously the people in charge at Swansea have made good appointments in the past, and they obviously know Gary a lot more than people from the outside looking in, and it's once again their choice of manager has been borne out, and Gary's done a great job.
Are you about where you thought your big target was point-wise?
Yes.
I don't know what your target was, but
Yeah. No, we've got a chance to hit what we talked about at the beginning of the year. So that's all we wanted at this stage of the season. We've got very few games to go, but we've still got good opportunities to get more points. Points that will better what we did last year, and hopefully enable us to hit the target that we set.
Jeff Cameron, perhaps the only doubt for you?
Jeff has got tightness in his hamstring. He hasn't trained all week. He'll train tomorrow. That's the hope anyway. He's quite positive, but obviously we'll see how he goes with the training. It'll only be a light session, so we'll obviously have to factor that in. But the hope is that he'll be able to be available. We've got an injury today to Charlie Adams, Adam unfortunately. Got a bang on the nose, and looks like he's broken his nose. I think he's done it in the past, and it's probably where the weakness is in the nose. As long as that doesn't swell up to any consequence and affect his breathing, then he should be okay. He's obviously got a mask from the last time he did it, so we're all prepared. But that obviously was something that we had anticipated before training this morning. But it's happened, so hopefully it won't compromise him for the game of the weekend.
Is that a factor of help for Mark's job?
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah, he's just got a crack in it, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, well, like I said, he's had one from the past. I think he had it a couple of years ago, did he? Or, Charlie's a very attractive young man, I'm sure, in many people's eyes.
Mark, managers can manage a lot of things, but you can't manage expectation. Obviously, ninth last season, possibility of 8th this season. How do you go about managing the expectations, not only the fans, but also the players and the staff of the club?
Well, our expectations are always high, and that's what we've always tried to do. Certainly since I've come here, we've tried to work with expectation. We haven't tried to dull it or make it lesser or lower than actually our capabilities. I think it's easier sometimes to underplay what the potential of the group is, and then it looks like you've overachieved. So I've never done that since I've come to the club. I've always tried to get people excited by what's ahead of us and the challenges that are ahead of us, and that comes by obviously raising people's expectations of what the group's capable of. It can end in tears. You can't upset people when expectations are higher, but it's something I've always tried to do whatever club I've been at, and for the most part since I've been here, touch wood, expectations have been raised, but we've been able to justify those expectations, so we hope that's going to continue.
Mark, Peter Odemwingie, there's a lot of fuss about his comeback, but when he did finally come on, his passing was sublime, his positioning was excellent. Is that something that you think you've really missed this season?
I think, yeah, certainly. It goes without saying, ideally we would have wanted the ability of Peter available for a lot more games than we were able to have him for. I don't know how many games he played. Actually, he had a late return, so he missed pre-season as well, so we didn't see a great deal of him then. And then when he did get up to speed for Premier League action, obviously he did his knee against Man City, so he's been a long time out. But the reaction of the crowd was fantastic when he came on, and that was probably a little bit behind my thinking in terms of getting involved, because we know at the moment he's not quite ready to start games, but we're hoping to address that this weekend, and on Monday we've got a game rearranged here, so he'll play a bigger part in that than he has done in the first team against Wolves. So hopefully after the Wolves game, if he comes through that, fine, then he'll be ready for possibly starting games, which maybe he's not quite ready for at the moment. But yeah, he looked sharp, he looked ready for the work. It wasn't a case of putting him at risk. He was never at risk. He's done a lot of work for a long time now, and I think that showed when he came on. He was able to make the impact that I hoped he'd make.
Did you plan to play him
No, we had conversations in the week and in the last couple of weeks prior to making the decision to get him involved. We thought it was the right thing to do for Peter and the right time for him to get him involved. And when I discussed him, I think I mentioned it to you last week that obviously when I let him into my intentions of involving him, then he was delighted. You could tell that he was really focused and I'm really looking forward to it. And he's had a good week since, and I think that's because he's taken that big step psychologically to getting back onto a Premier League pitch and playing and making an impact. So he's cleared a big hurdle this week.
Mark, we spoke to Peter Wingy earlier. Actually, he was saying how the football community, not just players at this club, but players from other clubs as well, really kind of helped him through that and gave him advice. But had similar sort of injuries.
I'm sure, yeah.
Is that sort of commonplace in football?
Yeah, I think it is. I think obviously with social media and the way people interact these days, I think goodwill messages are always very quickly sent through. There's the reverse of the coin, which we have to deal with as well. But no, Peter's an endearing character, and he's got a lot of friends in the game, and it doesn't surprise you at all that he's been given a lot of good wishes, and he's responding to them, and he's really enjoying where he is at the moment. So we just got to keep him going in the right direction, make sure that his progress is good, which it seems to be at the moment in terms of his fitness, and hopefully he'll start again before the end of the season.
I heard some comments from Peter Crouch earlier this week saying that in the not too distant future he'd quite like to start his coaching badges with a view to moving into management. Is that a conversation that he's had with you yet? Does he look like a manager in making?
Well, I was actually with him when he made the comments, and no, I'd not had a conversation in that regard with him before, but yeah, I can imagine Peter wants to stay in the game. He's got a real love for it, and some players, when they get to this stage in their career, they start to think about what they're going to do in the future. Some find or feel that they've had enough of this game, this life that we lead, but Peter obviously feels that he certainly will have something to offer given his experience and what he's been through as a player at a number of levels. He's got a real insight into that one, and I think that could certainly help people in the future. So yeah, I can well understand why he's thinking on those lines. He's got a good demeanour, good personality as well, which would lend itself to being a good coach. So if he needs any help, obviously he's got good people here that will help him to fulfil those requirements that you need as a coach, so that when he does finally call it a day, which is a few years away yet, I would suggest, then he'll be better prepared.
One final one from me. Next week, two of your old clubs, Man City and QPR, meet. You were involved in one of the craziest games of football in Premier League history a couple of years ago at the end of the season. So now you're detached from those two clubs, looking back on it. What are your sort of overriding memories of that day?
I wasn't anticipating answering questions about Man City and QPR, but I'll do it. Yeah, it was one of those days. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot riding on it for both clubs. I mean, we weren't safe. There was actually a game going on here at the time that we were keeping a close eye on, and as the day panned out, it was a roller coaster of emotions for everybody who was actually there on the day. So I think the scenes at the end were something that I hadn't experienced at that stage of my career. It was the noise when the goal from Aguero went in was unbelievable. So a lot of memories, and yeah, you look back on it, and that was a game that people will remember for a long, long time. It was some day on a number of levels for both clubs. So to be part of it, it was different. It wasn't a great experience at the time, but when the whistle blew, obviously we were delighted that we were still a Premier League club at that time.
Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Radios, please.
Well done.